This video is on section 2.3. It's the third part of 2.3 and it's on your My Math Lab assignment number 13. This is the second video we've had on the section and I have it just so that you'll have more examples. Determine whether the function is linear or quadratic. In problem A, look at your function. It's 4 minus 5x. If you look at that x, it's to the first power. This is a linear function. B, you have x squared, x to the second power, that's going to be quadratic. Part C, you have an x squared, that's going to be quadratic. Now in D, you have a squared term, but it's a number squared. Look at your x term, it is to the first power, therefore this is going to be a linear function. Now, the primary reason for doing another video here is to show you more equations that are reducible to quadratic. These are not quadratic, but we're going to solve them as if they were. X to the fourth minus 5x squared plus 4 equals 0. It's to the fourth power. I'm looking for 4 answers, 4 zeros. I'm going to treat this as a trinomial, as I did in the quadratic equations. Now let's think for a moment. To get an x to the fourth, and here's my key what I'm going to use because of that middle term being x squared. I'm going to remember that x squared times x squared is x to the fourth. Now I need to multiply to get a positive 4. I'm adding to get a negative 5. Now think about that. If I have a 4 times 1 multiplied, that's 4. And if I add a negative 4 to a negative 1, I have a negative 5. Now, the zero principle says to set each factor equal to 0. You can either use the square root theorem here, or you can use difference of two squares. Let's use one of each. If I use the difference of two squares, I have x plus 2 times x minus 2. Now this will only work if you do have a difference and both of these are perfect squares. Set both equal to 0 and I'll have x equals negative 2 and x equals positive 2. Now I could have used the same method for x squared minus 1, but let's use the other method. Remember the square root property says that if I'll isolate that square and move the constant over, take the square root of both sides, and when you take the square root, when the problem didn't tell you to, you're going to get a plus or minus, and then the square root of 1 is 1. Now according to My Math Lab, remember we'll write our answers as 4 separate results. Negative 2, positive 2, 1, and negative 1. The next problem, x to the fourth minus 3x squared plus 2 equals 0. Again, I have x squared times x squared. I need to multiply and get a 2. That would be 2 times 1. I need to add to get a negative 3, so that will be a negative 2 times negative 1. If I set both of these equal to 0, now this is not the difference of two squares, so I've got to use this square root theorem method. So move the 2 to the right side, take the square root of both sides, and when I do, the right side becomes plus or minus, and I can't simplify. There are two answers. Here I can either use the difference of two squares, or I can use the same method by moving the 1 over, taking the square root of both sides, and I can take the square root of 1. Now my 4 answers would be square root of 2, negative square root of 2, positive 1, and negative 1. We'll do one more. The C problem, x to the fourth plus 3x squared minus 10. Let's see if we can factor this. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth. 5 times 2 is 10. To multiply and get a negative, I need one of these to be positive and one negative. To get a positive 3, this larger number 5 needs to be positive. Now let's try this. If I have a positive 5x squared added to a negative 2x squared, I would have a positive 3x squared. Now set both of these factors equal to 0. You do not have the difference of two perfect squares, so I'll put the square on one side, the number on the other side, and I will have, now taking the square root of both of these, I'll have x equal plus or minus square root of negative 5. Now remember, we're going to take this negative underneath the square root, and that's going to be I. And here take the square root of both sides. So my answers are going to be I square root of 5, negative I square root of 5, square root of 2, and negative square root of 2.